I think this man personifies what culture is all about through the vehicle of music. Since the early days of Curtis Blow playing keyboards as a young lad, this man came into the game. He's always been humble about his own, always been low-key about it, but he's been staunch about it, Heather being Tracy. What I mean by staunch, he's been a total supporter of the culture and good music. It's always been about music with him. You can't trap him in any genre. That's not what he does, man. He crosses all genres. He's worked with artists from all areas, from all walks of life. This man, to me, I don't know, he keeps me inspired by the way he keeps reinventing his ability to create, not just for himself, but for others. You know, Tracy, you mentioned Amy Winehouse.
Oh, my gosh.
How big of a fan you are of Amy Winehouse.
To the maximum.
You
Kindred
know,
spirit.
Okay. The list goes on. Moo Fresh is somebody I'm a big fan of. Sprague Bands is somebody I'm a big fan of. Chronics. You know, the list goes on. The Fugees, Heather B. You know, Nas. It just goes on and on. Black Thought, Tidra Moses, Case, Jennifer Hudson. The list goes on and on and on.
Crazy.
I know he gets tired of hearing it because he lived it. You know, but I'm really proud to have my brother. I consider him a brother. You know, last time I saw him, stepped out in Lower Manhattan off of Orchid Street to visit his installation, Midnight at MuseZeum. And you spell museum like muse, M-U-S-E-Zim. And this is just this concept that he's come up with that is really forward-thinking, dealing in Web3 technology, and it's a way to kind of reinvent artists who otherwise, in some cases, aren't being tapped into. And he's providing not only that, but revenue streams as he secures their legacy with artwork that he created with his own hands, you know, multimedia art that he started creating. I want to say during the pandemic, he picked up this craft, and now he's moving it forward. May 4th, Thursday, if you're in the tri-state area, make sure you go to Legacy NYC from 7 to 10 p.m. There'll be beverages, free beverages, Jade Champagne. They be coming through every time. You know, last time I went, I came down there with Esso, and Rich Nice was down there with us as well. Black Thought came through. Who else was there? Stickman from Dead Press was there, right? M1 from Dead Press was there. Ralph McDaniels. Come on, Angie came through. It was a celebration of what he's doing. I want to bring him back to the show. He's no stranger. Give it up for Salaam Remi.
What up? Sway, was you drinking? Did you get a drink?
Clank, clank.
They didn't have no green juice.
Shut up, Sway.
Man.
They would have had green juice. Not everybody drinking alcohol.
So you gotta come to the Miami Museum for that. We got all the fresh juices.
Y'all got the fresh juices in Miami?
Everything.
Man, you got to do that in New York. This is where the health is depreciating here in New York, brother.
But see, then you gotta preserve it so long. In Miami, you getting there like from tree to cup, like in half an hour.
Yeah.
Or less.
Okay,
Ain't no pit stops.
Ain't no pit stops.
Exactly. Super fresh.
I want to talk about Midnight at MuseZeum, the series that you're doing. May 4th, don't forget, if you're in the tri-state area, go to Legacy at NYC. But before I do, I read something that troubled me, and I want to get some clarity on it. Mm-hmm. I read that you are retiring from music.
Yeah. So basically, I retired my career as a producer on my 50th birthday last year, just as something I felt like I needed to do. My entire adult life, I've been, a producer. I've been doing it since I was 14 years old. And I wanted to say, okay, after 36 years in, when do I get a chance to pause that and focus on other aspects of my life? And by me saying, like, this isn't my job anymore, because, life as a producer is nice, but it's really a service job. You're at the beck and call of different artists, whatever they want to get done. Mm-hmm. It's not like I'm making myself more important. Most of the time, you wouldn't know I made a record unless the artist said my name in the record. There's only one time it happened, and I wasn't there when the mix was. I would have taken it out. So after having 36 years of service, that sounds like something for a pension, right? So 36 years of service of doing that, I just decided I wanted to pause it. It was a decision I made when I was 30 that when I was 50, I was just going to let that part of it go. So I still create in different ways, but I just wanted to not be tied to the studio, because when I'm in it and that passion is there, you can hear it through the work that I've done and also through the artists that I've ended up working with and helping them find their passion. Mm-hmm. But I decided I wanted to take another road. So I've retired from being a producer or being able to be hired. you cannot hire me.
I can't hire you.
Wow.
Nah.
No price.
You could, if you wanted to do something, you do it. But
I do it for love. If I'm
Yeah.
going to do it, but there's no hiring me. There's no I hired this person. I have to make a beat. I have to hope you did it. I have to help somebody promotes it. I have to help somebody gives me a publishing deal. There's no hiring.
What's the value, the personal value in that? Just being able to say you can't hire me. How does that feel?
I mean, that's definitely part of it, but it's also, understanding value versus money. And, I've had a lot of things this whole year. I haven't watched television or even looked at YouTube probably this whole year, but I've been having a lot of things where close friends of mine, some that have money, they've lost their closest person, or some people who are stressing about money, they also passed away from the stress of money. And I had to look at it and say there's a lot more value to life. And my value is me being able to give everybody a proper conversation. The value that I really gave to all the artists that I work with was our conversations turned into audio form. So to me, the value that I'm able to leave here, and existing in the rest of my life is not even about just making beats. It's about conversations that now inspire somebody else to do something different.
Amen.
Salaam Remi, man. Can you speak to, I know I'm just curious too, you worked on a lot of different projects. Which ones were some of your most personal transformative projects that you walked out of and went, wow?
You know what? Like every story has a song. When I came in, y'all were playing Made You Look by Nas. That song happened at a time when there was a lot of tension and a lot of things going on. I was in bereavement. Nas was in bereavement. His mom had just passed. He was also at odds with my New York radio giants, who are also my closest friends. Things were just happening. It was the end of a beef, this, that, and the third. And Nas, even though that track had all that aggression in it, he still let the music diffuse all attention. So when I hear it, everybody else is like, hip-hop, I'm doing this, that, and the third. But remember, hip-hop came at a time, after blackouts, we were finding ways where we had less opportunities to now find a way to make something of it. And, we created out of what wasn't nothing, supposedly, and made it into what it needed to be. I hear that song, and I think about all the pressure and how many ways it could have gone wrong and how many ways it went righter than right. So I just hear that, and that's definitely a special moment to me. If I had to think of one off top, just because it was played recently.
Black on Purpose, I interpreted it as a response to some social unrest that was happening at the time. Are there other projects or songs you worked on that you can recall that were a direct response to social unrest in the past?
I mean, to me, still all of it. And when people think about Amy Winehouse records or Jasmine Sullivan records, that's personal unrest that I was like, express yourself. And then, I found myself putting chord changes to people's problems. And that was what that was at that time. But I felt like Black on Purpose, for me, no matter what I'd done in life, at that time, it didn't make a difference. I was a large black man. And the large black man outside the store was George Floyd, Eric Garner, or me. It didn't make a difference what I had done outside of that. And I felt like I needed to, the album cover looks like an ID of a man that doesn't know where he's from. Maybe I have Yoruba blood, etc. So it was like me putting my whole entire, if you don't know anything else about me as a person, this is where it is. It goes from Going Up Yonder to African music to jazz to hip hop to everything I was feeling at that time. It starts with Malcolm X, it ends with Sandra Bland. That was like it was almost my swan song in that way of how I felt about passionately. I made the whole album with a tear in my eye because there was so much going on between COVID, losing people. Then on top of that, just it was uncomfortable. I didn't feel comfortable walking outside my house. And at the end of the day, I felt like I was being, you couldn't touch me because I was inside my fortress and that was there. But, a lot of people were dying of COVID, et cetera, during that year. And then at the same time, you couldn't touch me because, I am who I am. But emotionally, what was happening was getting to me. And the only way to fix your physical and your emotional is the spiritual. So at this point, I'm actually the spirit that embodies the body of the person named Salaam, who is writing the rest of the life. So Salaam can do whatever he wants to do.
Well, I'm wondering, I love the space that you're in, Salaam, especially that you recognize that you're a spirit who's in the driver's seat of this body.
Right.
There are a lot of artists, especially when they're first starting out, understanding their craft. And when they're writing music, it can be very much on the surface, or if it's just like braggadocious. And I know for a lot of folks, just in general, it can be difficult taking the plunge within yourself. What are some like exercises maybe you can share for artists so that they can start being more comfortable with vulnerability that you utilize in the studio?
I mean, it's a thing where there was times when Nas would call me a psychologist that knows how to make music too.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's having conversations. I mean, I just ask people questions because for me, you know, I had a job. My job was the company wants to figure out how is this going to work. And then the artist is trying to figure out how they're going to express themselves. And for me, having a space where it was safe, it's like, well, the label's going to think this. And no, we're not talking to them. It's just me and you talking to him.
Right.
This is an A to B conversation. You're providing your lyrical, melodical aspects of it, and I'm supporting whatever those things are. But first, I have to ask you 21 questions, as 50 would say, to figure out who you are. I almost saw it like speed dating. I had to figure out what about this person was something that everybody could relate to, and at the same time figure out what about them is absolutely unique that I wouldn't figure out unless I had this conversation, and then make an audio form of it. So I'd just be sitting there asking questions. So what's your favorite song? Oh, what's your favorite Stevie Wonder song? And in my mind I'm putting in the basket. Oh, you like that song? Okay, you like this song? Okay, this is that. And then I'm figuring out, because I'm a student of music and creativity, how to make them more comfortable with being themselves. Like the biggest thing that can happen for any artist is for them to get paid for being who they are.
Right.
Like Cardi B, you cannot stop her from being who she is. At any given moment, she's going to give you 10 ad-libs that you could chop up into 10 songs because she's who she is. And that to me is the gift that really most of the artists that I've worked with, I've helped them find, whether it was the Fugees, whether it was Miguel, whether it was different people, where they didn't feel like I had to be something or act to be something in order to make my record. I actually was able to just say what I thought. You know, the first sessions with Jasmine Sullivan, it was Lions, Tigers, and Bears that we did. And then they said, there has to be no
Can't
writers.
believe that was the first session.
That was the first session.
I mean, we worked together when she was on Job, but our first session for her, like, you know, early album,
Yeah.
it was we did Lions, Tigers, and Bears, Live a Lie, and then the label wanted her to cover a song. There's a song I did on Nas's Streets Disciple album, War, that Keon Bryce had written. There's a war going on inside that, and Peter Edge really wanted her to cover the song. So to appease him, she did cover the song and did a whole Aretha Franklin flip on it, and we have that. But it never came out because what she wrote on her own without any songwriters, they realized Lions, Tigers, and Bears, wait a minute, she's a better writer than anyone else. So most of the artists that I really work with, even if people think they can't write, they become a writer that day because I'm like, say what you want to say.
Right.
So who are you? Nah, you can say it. I can say that. Yep, say it exactly like that.
Yeah.
And then I allow them to be themselves, and then you hear something in the music that you wouldn't hear otherwise. And that's really like it's almost like an unboxing process. And then once you know who you are, then keep running with it.
Yeah.
So that's really what I do with artists. But most of all, when you can just say what you really think, you know, and then filter it later, because that's what an artist, that's almost like intimacy in the true way, as far as just being able to tell the truth and not have to put on who you are. If you have a bunch of friends and you can't say what you really think around them, then you're kind of not being a friend to yourself. You know?
Which artist do you feel like has done that for you in terms of questions that have helped you to realize more of who you are?
That's a good one. You know what happens? A lot of times I would always say I was a mirror. When I was working with somebody, and they'd be like, well, you did this. I'm like, nah, I just showed you what you said. Like, did you hear what you just said? That's your chorus. Did you hear what you just did? That's your goal right there. And in my process recently, you know, talking to different artists, Terry Walker, big up Terry Walker in the UK. I talk to her almost every day.
Word.
That's my ace, and I talk to her
Terry
all the
Walker.
time. And she actually said stuff to me that I said to her 15 years ago. And I'm like, okay, cool. Recently also, even when I was doing, you know, my recent thing with MuseZeum, I hit J. Cole, and I was like, yo, this is what I'm doing, this, that, and the third. And then he hit me like, okay, cool, but what's your brand name? Like, where's your one name? Like, you're doing this Supreme, but next to, you know, we ain't really get into it yet, but this is what you're doing is something so special. What's the name? And it took me back to something I said to him. So it was a point when I think his second album's about to drop. So I work with J. Cole.
Yeah.
And he's always, you know, done different records, but a lot of times use those verses on other records outside of whatever we work with. But our songs never really came out except for All I Want Is You and Come Through and Chill with Miguel.
Right.
But in general, we still had a great creative conversation, and that's really what it's about. And when I was doing that, Cole, he played me a beat one time. I was like, well, that's crazy. If you put you and Kendrick on it and put a crazy title on it, that'd be crazy. And he looked at me and said, what does the title make a difference? And I was like, oh, I got two girls that want to meet you. One name is Mary and one name is Peaches. Which one you want to meet first?
Where's Peaches at?
Exactly. So he said,
That's good.
I want to meet Peaches. And I was like, all right, cool. So that's what the title makes a difference. So this is 10 years later. 10 years later.
Oh my gosh, we were just talking about titles.
Yes,
right.
That's the
So
part.
10 years later, now when I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm showing him I got this art, I got this and that. And he looked at it. He's like, yo, so what's the name of your thing? So basically, all is to say, J. Cole gave me back my own medicine, which was necessary. You know what I'm saying? And that's really how it works out. The same thing happens when I speak to Nas. He tells me back stuff that we said. So we're helping each other. And
You're
that's
both
really
each other's mirrors.
And that's what community is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's where you can have a reflection. So sometimes I'll look at somebody and I'll say, hey, I think you should this, and this. And then 10 minutes later, I have to say, also, I think I should this, because I have to turn around that mirror. But a lot of times you don't get a chance to do that when you're just hustling all the time.
Yes.
You need time to reflect. And the pandemic's been great for me like that. I was able to do my self, DNA reflection, family tree, ask the questions that nobody wanted to ask. So my grandfather's name is Sugar. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, Sugar. I'm like, yeah, Sugar. Yeah, his granddad's name is Sugar. No, he's sitting on the property. I'm like, oh, he's Sugar Cane Boy that took the sugar cane up to the top of the hill to the sugar factory. Oh, and his sons never thought of that. They just thought their pops were smooth. You know what I'm saying? So it took them into their 70s of me sitting here going, but what was his job? He cut the sugar cane and took it up the hill on a donkey cart. Sugar Cane Boy. Like, which, what is it? What's my mom's son? Which son? Sugar. Oh, okay. But my point is like just being able to look at my family tree with a human perspective to it, and being able to look at myself and then really figure out what we're doing.
Wow.
Salaam Remi is here, man. We're going to open up these phone lines, too. We're going to talk about Midnight at MuseZeum.
Cool.
The spirit of Salaam is here.
Yes.
Okay, 888-742-3345. 845, the spirit of Salaam Remi is in here. We're celebrating, if you're in the tri-state area, he's doing a concert series, Midnight at MuseZeum. MuseZeum.
True. So it's different levels to that.
Okay, speak to that.
So MuseZeum is my overall brand that I'm doing. I have a flagship space in Miami and Wynwood on 2032 Northwest 2nd Avenue.
Perfect area. Let's go.
So I have a 3,000 square foot building in Wynwood.
Wow.
The murals wrap the building. Nas, Celia Cruz, Slick Rick, Marvin Gaye, Supercat, D-Nice, D'Angelo. It's a sight to see in itself. And then MuseZeum in itself as a concept in a space is my creative studio. It's basically the brand that Cole inspired me to name that way. It's Cole and Supercat. Supercat actually said, "Don't put me in the museum." And I was like, "What?" Like, because Jamaicans, they have things. He didn't want them to put them in a gallery. Put my picture in the gallery. So he said museum, and I was like, "Wait a minute, what you say, Dada?" He said, "No, well, I know you were," and I was like, "Museum." So museum for me is that, but museum basically overall as a concept. If you go to a gallery, a normal art gallery, the gallery is actually getting 40%, 50% sometimes of people's work.
Right.
And then the photographer or artist have to be able to put something up. What I realized during the pandemic is there was a lot of people who were not able to benefit from their name and likeness that had pictures selling in galleries that didn't make sense. So on my personal journey to start doing art, and I started just doing spray paint art, I was kicking it with one of my homegirls, Sheena, who does art. And I was like, yo, I think I should do something. She was like, yeah, go ahead, do it. So I started doing spray paint and watching YouTube and epoxy and all this stuff. Then I realized I could mix pictures into it. I could mix Nas into it, or Fugees, or Rakim, or Just Ice, or many people, big up Just Ice, or everybody that I was a fan of into the spray paint epoxy art. And then when I was like, okay, what am I going to do with it? Then I said, oh, wait a minute, I have to find a way to pay the people in the pictures.
Yes.
So I went to the Bob Marley estate, who I'm working on different projects with, and I'm tight with, Stephen Marley and most of the Marley offspring. And then also to the Marvin Gaye estate, who I was working on putting their Marvin Gaye remixes and things over the last set of years. And I said, just for your name and likeness,
Sway, why you moving over? We saw this hoodie like
there you
50
go.
million
Sway's
times. God.
I think you got a stain on that white hoodie somewhere too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I did was I made the art and I said, cool, know what, for your name and likeness, what would you be happy with as far as for that? So basically we came up to 40%. And how it works is that anybody that's in my museum ecosystem, because it's not even just art, if Sway takes a picture of Heather and that goes into a piece of art that goes into my ecosystem, then Heather gets the same thing Bob Marley and Marvin Gaye get, and you get approval rights over it. So
That's dope.
this didn't happen unless, rest in peace, Jan Gay approved it.
Right.
And Nona Gay approved it.
That's so
And
fair,
approved
too.
It is.
And it's just pretty much, it's almost like how I would sample and have 5 different songs within it, different people's IP. This person's photograph, this person's illustration, this person's likeness was most important to me. And now when we put together one piece, as I have right now, a piece on that has a photograph that Ricky Powell took of Rakim, and then some spray paint and things that I've done around it. Well, ultimately, the reality is that Rakim has to like it and approve it and say this is good, and then Ricky Powell, because I'm using his photograph, has to be a part of it. And it's an ecosystem where I'm putting things together, and out of every one art piece, which most of them also have a whole art box thing I've been doing where I actually have speakers built into every art piece, which is something you have to see, because people seen pictures of it, but until you stand in front of it and realize this picture is actually giving you all this energy sonically, because I tuned it like studio speakers, then we also have an addition, 1 of 100 pieces that come off of it. So what Sway is wearing, this white hoodie with this picture on it,
This one
there
right
will
here.
only be 100 of those.
He said he got the first one. You think that's true?
He was in the first 20.
Okay.
Definitely in the first
That
20.
ain't the first one, Sway.
Well, he said the
It's close.
first 20. That could
It's
be the
close.
number
You
one.
said you had the number one.
There it is. But I'm wearing the first one of this one.
Of course.
Fire.
This
Okay.
other piece, and actually, we have them available. So now, museum, because it's in Miami, but I'm coming up here. It makes no sense for me to be in New York because everybody's still. I invite all of you all to come down to
Yes.
Thank you.
98 Orchard Street. I'm there May 1st to May 7th doing a pop up. Because people that know me all my life, Chuck Chillout was there last night. So what you doing? I don't understand. Where's your 12
Chuck, chill out.
Chuck was just like, what are you doing? Like,
Oh, so it's open now. You said
It's open right now.
started yesterday.
Started yesterday.
Okay.
I got all the pieces up there, got it all put up, and I'm in town this week mainly saying I want everybody to pull up because it's something to see, it's something to experience.
Yeah.
And also, from back to Cole's point, this museum is like almost like the official version of Supreme, supported by us because you're getting the gallery space by what you're doing. And I'm also bringing up new artists, Justin Wadlington, Brittany Ann Baum, many other artists, El Kumba, who's actually Momo Fresh's father. He has a couple pieces in the space.
Oh, wow.
My ecosystem is not just about what I make. It's about how many other people can benefit. Just like my studio helped me get certain artists on. Yes, I helped produce the Fugees' first records, but Wyclef produced Destiny Child's first hit, and Destiny Child spawned on, and it's how I'm paying it forward. So I'm looking at this like I might only do this art for a little while, but this ecosystem that I'm creating continues to push it forward. And it's like I planted many trees during the pandemic. I planted 63 trees. I might not eat the fruit or feel the shade from the trees, but somebody will.
Amen.
And that's basically the energy that I'm moving on right now. So museum is that overall. And the Midnight at Museum concert series ended up with me having Rakim in Miami for an unveiling of his art pieces. And then we also did a concert with Rakim and Grand Poobah, kind of bringing that energy back around. The same thing happens when I did a conversation with Rakim. Rakim now benefits from that conversation in perpetuity. It's a 50-50 split. It was a conversation between two people like a song. Oh, the concerts, if that concert goes and streams online, Rakim gets paid again. Poobah gets paid again for whatever happens. So it's
That's
really
amazing.
just letting it through because I don't have to be a middleman because I'm
Yeah.
a creator and giving the creativity back to everyone else, and then using the blockchain to make sure everybody gets paid in perpetuity. Because we want to be analog people, but we also want our money digitally and quick, not snail mails in 7 to 10 days and foolishness.
You're a preview of the future.
Yeah, we had Styles P here talking about Web3
Right.
spaces too, him and Baron Davis, and how it could benefit us, and that's how people could find this art too.
Definitely.
Yep.
Museum, www.museum.io is the space right now, and it's just continuing to develop. I'm on the iPhone 1 portion of showing everyone to it, but it just keeps going deeper and deeper. The main thing, I'd like you to come to the portal pop-up. Like I said, 98 Orchard Street this week in New York, but then when you're in Miami, just pull up. And if I'm not open at that moment, scan the QR code in the wall. It'll still take you somewhere.
There you go, man. Salaam Remi, the spirit.
Wow.
Thank you.
Man, this is amazing, man. So let me ask you this. Back to the music. A lot of people have been selling, publishing. Is that something you would consider?
I decided not to do it. I mean, so also at that 50, basically
Yeah.
I made a plan from 45 that I was at Sony for 5 years, from 40 to 45, 2012 to 2017. And I looked at it and I was thinking to myself, after I understood even more of the inner workings of the music business, how valuable owning your copyrights were. And working for the great Doug Morris for 5 years, he said something to me one day. He said, Salaam, look, I sold the same song on 45, LP, 8-track, CD, streaming or YouTube. No, I'm going to make Vivo so it's even better, and streaming. But it's the same song that we've owned the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the top 10 songs of Sway's life, Sway's going to find different ways to listen. Do you ever notice when you play your parents' favorite music, you don't have to play it out of speaker? They can hear it on YouTube and hear a little bit of it, and they're just happy, like, oh, and that was a song. It might be in another language. They're emotionally connected to it. And what's happened is when people are emotionally connected to music, those songs are like their intellectual property that continue to get played over and over. And when I got to my 50th birthday, I actually have a picture of where I was. I was in Barbados on the beach.
All right.
And I sat there and I looked up and I was like, basically, you know what? If I got this far and I didn't sell it and I made my life still in a great place and I was just sitting here going, and I actually can afford to buy this spot on the beach, I'm good. So I decided to spin the block one more time to show everybody else how I was able to do that without selling it. And by helping people make more money from their name and likeness, hopefully that will slow them down from selling this evergreen catalog. In the catalog game, I'm going to just break it down for a lot of people. I have a company called Analog Metaverse where I'm actually helping other estates. You know, my Analog Metaverse company also represents not only myself, but the late great Crown Prince of Reggae, Dennis Brown, the soul siren of the South, Miss Betty Right, State.
Wow.
Also represent Bobby Digital Dixon, who did most of the reggae, Sizzler, you know, Dembow for Shaba, like just all the songs that continue to pop off. And Celia Cruz is the state where I've been helping them doing a lot of stuff. But really the goal is to show people how much value they have in this stuff so that they don't sell it as quickly. And really when it comes down to it, the reason why people are buying it now, it's almost like buying a mortgage on a house. Okay, if I give you this money now,
$200 million
for this mortgage on this house, the reality is that I might not get that back, but I just wrote off $200 million. But over that next 30 years, the value might be $500 million.
Yep.
But now I just paid into something that's valuable down the road. Well, if I have songs, two of the biggest songs that I'm able to retire on now are Here Comes the Hot Step and Fujilan, which both came out 95, 96. If these songs are still playing 25 years later, is that 25 years? Yeah, 25 years later, that heavily, then what are they going to be in another 20 years? They're still stuck in somebody's head all the way down the road, and they're going to continue to make money in different ways. If I maintain that, then now I'll have money in the long run from it. But if people take the money now and you don't do anything with it, then, you know what I'm saying? So the whole goal is, if you can, keep your evergreen catalog, especially your songs that make a difference. Don't get caught with the trick of just taking the money now. But some people, you know, they're getting the money and they're doing the right thing with it. But as we know, some people get the money with it and then somebody gets it in their hand that didn't work for it and they throw it to the wind. So it's kind of like, you know, the opposite of it. But no, I'm not really, my catalog's not really for sale.
Salaam Remi,
Not for
man. Come on,
sale.
man. MuseZeum. Once again, tell people how they can find out more about it.
MuseZeum, www.museum.io, and then also online at musc.zeum, or just follow me anywhere at Salaam Remi. I'm all over the place, and it's in my bios. It's what I'm doing now. This is the brand that I'm rocking with: concerts, conversations, unveilings, and just a portal back down to just having something that's being done properly for the right reasons with the right people.
I love it, brother. I appreciate you, man. Always making a note to come visit us.
Yep.
For sure, always.
Yeah, man. You always make a note to come visit us. Are we missing anything before you go?
I think that's mainly it. You know, the Midnight at MuseZeum concert series. The next one is Big Daddy Kane on June 10th in
Dope.
Miami at the band show. So
What up, Kane?
Big up Big Daddy Kane, Rakim. There'll be other artists, there'll be other genres. It's just going to continue to pull up, and I'm just stepping into it with the right energy, the right purpose, the right heart with it, and to be a VIP in our spaces, to be a part of the as you have the citizens.
Yeah.
I have the patrons of the museum who are coming in to actually participate in this ecosystem, and also I'm looking for more up and coming creatives to now get a chance to connect with their icons rather than ending up bootlegging that creativity. So doing that, coming up, we have new future stuff with Just Ice, with Big Daddy Kane, with so many artists. Like it's just continue to go. Faith Evans. It's just nonstop, and I'm excited to just keep showing people what it is and giving them more of this information, because this information is free.
Yep.
It's what you do with it.
When you
Word.
move towards the West Coast, let me know.
Oh, we going there. We
Because I
definitely got that
want
lined
a
up.
Sway and Tech piece, man. We got to do a Sway and Tech art piece. If it
definitely.
moves the spirit.
Nah,
If it
definitely.
moves the spirit.
And the thing is, as you see it and now you understand what's going on with it, we definitely need that. And we capture that image. Because the thing is, the way I look at images, it has to move you even if you don't know who the person is.
Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
if you look at something and you just like it and you don't even know who that is, but you just like the image, then it means something. So it's just capturing that little thing. Like, to me, same thing with my songs. If you had to know I made the song to like it, then I didn't do my job.
There you go,
You had
man.
to just feel it. I had to capture you, and then you go, wait a minute, what happened on this? Now you read the label and realize what's in it, but the ingredients had to be, giving you the right frequency off the top.
And that's what your music does. Before you go, I know we got another guest, Jazzy's coming up. Do you feel, are you concerned about this AI technology that we're starting to see just really duplicate artists' voices? Obviously not to the T, but it's been enough where a few songs have made impact. And what are your thoughts on that?
I think, at the end of the day, there was a point when the music industry could have bought Napster and could have controlled MP3s and streaming early out, but they didn't do it because they let the technology scare them that the technology might be smarter than whatever else. There was a time when the drummer was mad at the drum machine. Hey, what's this guy? It's going to be a machine, and, this is not a real drummer. I have a live feel, etc. The technology, of course, of what we're seeing is way deeper than what we've been shown, right? So somebody could actually do this a long time ago. The reality is that, I don't think you should. You should just figure out how you're still going to keep your analog self within a place that's metaverse. I want to get paid digitally quickly, but I don't necessarily want to live only a digital life at the end of the day. I want to turn around and still keep it going. So there's going to be something that the AI won't be able to do, but also I could use the AI to do stuff I don't want to do. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Talk to people I don't like. How about that? Talk to all of them. Hey, ask a question. Peopleidon'tlike.com, and then I actually pulled myself and went somewhere else. Like, hey,
Okay, I love that, man.
So that's AI is a great tool for that. There's a lot of people that don't deserve this energy and this real conversation.
Absolutely, brother. Salaam Remi, the spirit, y'all. He's just a vessel.
Yep.
We speaking to the spirit. This is amazing work you're doing. Anytime, man, you're more than welcome to come up here and keep us posted on everything, all right?
Definitely, for sure.
All right. I owe you for the hoodies.
You good, fam. I got you.